Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, as usual, like I always tell you, we're going to have what again? We're going to have a great show for you today. Today we have two special guests, one here in Houston, the other one in Washington, D.C., discussing not only Madison, Wisconsin, or what's going on throughout the state in Wisconsin with forcing our citizens to vote during the coronavirus problems. Think about this, people. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Anyhow, though, before I get real busy with the program, Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. The death of our citizens has become a partisan decision. That is true, but I am going to give a little caveat to that, my brother Rudnin, with regards to the election in the Democratic side. But I read you. Anyhow, folks, the title of the show today is Madison Paige, Wisconsin COVID-19 voting fiasco, and Nisha Randle DNC, and much more. But folks, before we get started, yesterday I watched an interview with Nancy Pelosi and Rachel Maddow that I think everybody needs to see. And I'm going to do it in two kind of pieces, right? Because after I watched that, I kind of fell in love with something that Nancy Pelosi said. So I kind of improved on what I think Nancy Pelosi was putting out there. And you're going to see what I'm talking about after I show the first interview with Rachel Maddow, and then I'm going to show you that stuff with her. So check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
What do you say to the American people tonight who may be concerned about the prospects for the November election, who may see the crisis that we're in and the kinds of decisions that are being made, the kind of political maneuvering that's happening around this election, for example, tomorrow in Wisconsin, people who are worried that maybe we won't have a presidential election or that we won't have one that has a actual meaningful test of the American public's preferences as to who we want?
Well, I first say that I'm so proud of all of our presidential candidates because they all understood that elections are about the future. What is your vision for the future? What do you know and have a passion about having a strategy to get something done around it? And how do you connect to the kitchen table needs of the American people? They all were wonderful in that respect. As we go forward, I get back to what I said before. We don't agonize, we organize. We must make sure that people get to the polls and vote. And there's time for us. Hopefully this virus will be beyond us then, but even if not, then we organize in the reality that we're in. But I just have to say to them to know their power. They have the ability to make the difference for the future. The stakes could never be higher. All you have to do is look at one press conference, and you see them every day, and the press insists on showing them every day. And you understand that this country has to go in a better direction to meet the needs of all of the American people, values-based, evidence-based in our decisions and the rest. So I would. They're the boss. I just finished a town hall meeting with my bosses, the people of San Francisco, and I respect what they believe and the standards they set for their elected officials. The people have to understand they are the boss of America. The choices The choice we have in that election is up to them to decide, but you don't count if you don't vote. So let's just every single day, as we are in these atmospheres of shelter at home and the rest, use all the time we can to make sure that every day we make progress in getting more people to the polls. And I always say, it's all about the children. So as we do this, just remember, it's for the children.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. Now we go. Now we have it. Anyhow, what I want to say here is this, folks. I thought Nancy did a great job there in saying what she needed to say, but I wanted to give it with a little bit more punch. So I want you guys to tell me if you like this that I did with it. I took that interview and kind of cut it up a little bit, and because I really thought she had a message in there. Tell me what you think about this. Check this out.
We don't agonize, we organize. Get to the polls and vote. Organize in the reality that we're in. Know their power. Make the difference for the future. We don't agonize, we organize. Hopefully this virus will be beyond us then, but even if not, we don't agonize, we organize. The stakes could never be higher. All you have to do is look at one press conference. Press insists on showing them every day. You understand that this country has to go in a better direction to meet the needs of all of the American people. Values-based, evidence-based in our decisions and the rest. But you don't count if you don't vote. So let's just every single day, we don't agonize, we organize.
I thought, using her phrases and putting it in different places kind of made some sense to kind of push the message. So tell me, guys, you guys tell me if you like that. Anyhow, Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. New to golf, welcome aboard. But are you really new to golf? And yes, these are crazy times. Bruce Pollard, hello from YouTube. How you doing, my brother? How are you doing, my brother? And then, of course, we have Lawrence Sims, my regular. How are you doing? Welcome aboard. Folks, we're going to have two solid interviews. The first one I want to do is, I just got through doing it with Madison Paige. So check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let me make sure I get the right one. There we go. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. I'm here with Madison Paige. Madison is the co-founder and CEO of Bold Blue Campaigns. And Madison's going to tell us about her hour with what's going on in Madison and a little bit about her, about Bold Blue Campaigns. Madison, tell me what's happening in Wisconsin.
Well, today, Wisconsin had their primary. And one of the things that they have been trying to do, people on the ground, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And people have been saying, we've got all the experts saying we need to practice social isolation. We need to practice, distancing and self-isolation. And people who are there in the state who are concerned about the possible health implications of people showing up in mass at polls have said, we need to put this election off. We need to postpone it. And many other states have done that. A lot of other jurisdictions have decided to postpone their primaries. Wisconsin did not. They sent out some vote by mail ballots, and unfortunately, they did not arrive on time to people. The Supreme Court just yesterday made a decision that they would not allow vote by mail ballots to be counted if they arrive after the Tuesday election. One of the big problems is that in Milwaukee, they went from having over 300 polling stations to now less than 10 polling stations for the entire city. So what we're talking about is an incredible public health crisis where people are congregating in order to exercise their right to vote. This is not only disenfranchisement, but it's also a willful disregard for public health.
Now, Wisconsin now has a Democratic governor who attempted to do the right thing. The Supreme Court in Wisconsin, as I understand it, they went against the government. The Supreme Court, the federal courts then said they gave them more time, and then it went to the Supreme Court, and by a 5-4 vote, they overturned the lower court justice. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And again, this is one very, very important reason. One thing I just really want to say, not only is it important who we elect at the federal level, because these Supreme Court justices obviously are biased and they're creating these, they want to support, they were appointed by Republicans. But even in our state courts, the Wisconsin Supreme Court did the right thing. They understood the implications. And the governor tried to do the right thing. The governor also appointed the DHS secretary, but she has not been confirmed by the Republican-controlled Wisconsin legislature. It really matters, not only who is president, but who is governor, who is mayor. Those things really, really matter, because mayors all over the state of Wisconsin have been urging the secretary to postpone the election. All of these mayors are saying this is a threat to public health. We don't want our citizens to be standing in close quarters to, even if it is to exercise a franchise. Let's postpone this election.
I don't know how you feel about this, but because I don't know, even within the Democratic Party, I don't know what side of the aisle you are on per se, but I felt like the DNC themselves weren't really urging the stoppage of these different elections either, which I think is problematic because it goes against everything Democrats should believe in.
I absolutely agree with you. I think there is a failure of leadership right now at the Democratic National Committee level. I think we ought to be pushing very hard for absolute mandatory vote by mail for this cycle. We have a big problem. We are in the midst of a global pandemic. And in the United States, this pandemic is not controlled well, in part because of failure of leadership in the White House. The Democratic Party, the number one job of the Democratic Party is to ensure that the Democrats get elected. Right now, we are facing a situation where there should be a lot more leadership happening. We should be saying, look, let's get people signed up for vote by mail. Let's push in whatever channels are necessary to make sure that people will have the opportunity to exercise their franchise come November, because we don't know where we're going to be 6 months from now with this pandemic. And what is inevitably going to happen is, if we are not in a better place 6 months from now, there'll be a panic in 4 months. And people will say, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's time to think ahead. It's time to understand how things are working and to think ahead and to take the steps that are necessary. I am very disappointed that I don't see more leadership on this issue than I do right now.
And that is interesting because you're correct. Nancy Pelosi came out and said that within this fourth stimulus bill, they're going to try to put vote by mail into the bill. We'll see if that really comes to pass. But as far as the leadership is concerned, you talk about leadership. I agree with you, but also what I see missing a lot is a sense of urgency. It's as if these folks don't understand that voting is within 6 months or so. We are already in April. And when we talk about something like your company, Bold Blue Campaigns, there's something that you said earlier off before we came online that I think is very concerning. And when you stated that, the people that you are working with, helping their campaigns, you guys have to decide how you're going to campaign now, because it's not going door to door anymore.
Yeah. We have over 500,000 elected positions that come up in a cycle every year or two. These are local campaigns, city commissioners, school board candidates, judges, mayors, police chiefs, state legislative representatives, state Senate candidates. These candidates in these campaigns usually are not the ones that are buying, doing a $10 million ad buy to run their campaigns. They're knocking on doors and they're meeting people out in their communities. And all of that has to stop now. Democrats have to understand that not only for years have we failed to support these smaller campaigns, which is what we do at Bold Blue, but in this new environment of coronavirus, where these campaigns are even more crippled, they're going to be more crippled financially, they're going to be more crippled in terms of outreach, we actually have to act decisively now. We've got to come up with actionable solutions because the elections are going to happen. And what we can't afford to do is to cede more territory to a Republican Party that has demonstrated itself to be evil, irresponsible, and incompetent.
Madison, I just interviewed Nabila Islam. She is running in Georgia. And there's yet another problem with these independent candidates, and it is that one of the reasons she had to stop a whole portion of her campaign is that also she was left without health insurance. And especially with Corona, she cannot do anything going forward as far as electing. So she's doing a full-fledged social media campaign, email campaign, and have surrogates all over the place, where I think it's sort of kind of the work that you guys do at Bold Blue Campaigns as well.
Yeah, we have actually, how do we advise our candidates now, right? How do we help them run their campaign